Hello everybody, so today I just want to introduce Turbo Android. I'm just getting up and running with Turbo Android. Now I actually have a blog post on this very topic on my website, just how to get up and running with Turbo Android, and if you prefer reading instead of watching the video, then I recommend checking this out. It's basically the same content, but today we're just going to get that out of the way. So what we're going to be building is this app. We have a Rails app already running on localhost 3000, and essentially all it is we just add contacts, save contacts, etc. to a database. It's a very simple CRUD application, okay? And what we're going to do is get it up and running on Turbo Android. So I'm going to open up Android Studio. So first thing is you'll need Android Studio, and you create a new project, and we create an empty activity, okay? And an empty activity basically installs libraries like Jetpack Compose for if you want to use the modern native library. So we'll create CRM Droid, we'll call it. And now we'll let that get created. And so it'll take a little bit to load, and once it loads, we just want to, the first thing we want to do is, you see here we have actually a lot of boilerplate is already installed to try and get you up and running with Jetpack Compose. Jetpack Compose, for people who don't know, it's similar to SwiftUI. It is basically a component-driven library similar to React or SwiftUI. So let's get going. Let's just get this out of here. And what we're going to do, so we've deleted that code, and we can actually delete it from here as well. And we're going to go into our Gradle scripts, and we're going to go into Gradle bundle grid module, and down to the bottom, and we're going to add our implementation of the library for Hotwire and Turbo Android, and you can get that from the GitHub repo. Now you'll be asked to sync your project, so we sync our project, and now we have the necessary libraries installed. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is actually just implement our main activity. Okay, so let's just delete this. And we also inherit from Turbo Activity. And then we have to implement some methods to just get the library working. So the first one is our delegate, and then our next one is we want to implement the create onCreate method. And we'll just get rid of this because we don't need that persistent state. And we're just going to call super on the parent element, and then we set our content view, and here we input a view, so our layout. Now it's red because we haven't actually created our layout yet. And finally then we just set a delegate. Okay, so we have a few little red lines. We're just going to sort them out first, but one file you will have to create is our main session nav host. So let's actually just do that quickly. But first we'll create our layout file. That's okay. And then we just go to the code. Now I'm actually going to copy and paste code from the, now where I originally got this is actually from the demo library, the demo app in the Turbo Hotwire Android library. And you can see we just have to correct this line, and we just correct this to CRM Droid. And of course we don't actually have a main session nav host yet, so we're going to create one. And this actually created a Java file, so what we're going to do is just quickly refactor this We're going to refactor, we're going to rename the file, and we're just going to make it a Kotlin file. And now we can go about creating our main session nav host. Okay, so this is a very straightforward. So we just inherit from Turbo session nav host fragment, and from there then we have to implement some methods. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is just override our session name. Okay, and that is a get, as you can see. So what we're going to do is actually just implement it, and we're just going to call it main for the moment. Session, since it's a get, and then we want to take our start location. Okay, and you can see again that's a string, and instead of actually using the get method, what we're just going to do, and we'll set this to URL. So the URL you want to set to, now you can run ngrok, but there's actually a special value that will run it on localhost. Okay, and then next then we just have to implement our registered fragments method. Okay, now this is the most important method, because this is how Turbo Android knows what to render, what Android screen to render for each route. Okay, and so for the moment, get is just going to be a list of items. Okay, and then finally we're going to override our registered activities, and again this is just a list of items. Okay, no, list life of, the life of me. And then the final thing then is we just want to do our path configuration. So if you have been, if you're familiar with Turbo iOS from Joe Mazzolitti's blog, or even looked at Jumpstart or anything like that, you'll see path configuration is something that comes up quite a bit. And here what we're going to do is we're just going to point our path configuration to a local file. Okay, but you can actually point it to a resource on the web as well, which is pretty cool. So we just set our location, and we set an asset file path, and we're just going to set that to configuration.json. Okay, and that is actually everything set up, okay, on the main session nav. And if we go back here to our main activity, you'll see we're still, we have everything almost set up. We have issue of our, oh yeah, we have to add, oh, init. Okay, so we have pretty much a lot of stuff set up. However, this code won't actually work. It's because we're actually missing this file. So let's actually add this file. Okay, so if we click on app and go new, and we actually go down here, and there is we go to asset path, where is asset folder, assets folder. Okay, and it's going to be called main, and then on our assets folder we'll just add a directory, and we'll just call it JSON, and then we're going to add a file, configuration.json. Cool. And we're just going to implement the file. So the path configuration file is something we'll dig into in another video, but it's essentially, it allows us to for every route you see, we go into a path that any path, and we have a URI called Turbo Fragment Web. And what will this do is every time it sees this path, it will render this web fragment, okay? And we have to register a fragment, okay? So what we're going to do is going to add a web fragment. It's going to be a class web fragment, okay? And it's actually going to be an open class, and we're going to just web fragment, and we're just going to, doesn't actually need to be a unit, we can actually just inherit directly from the Turbo web fragment in the Turbo Android library. And finally, we just need an interface. So perfect. And then we just need to annotate the class with a URI equal to, and just like what you saw in here, it's the same one. We can actually grab that guy, put it in here, and we're nearly done. So the next thing we have to do is just implement, add this to our list of register fragments. And we can do that here by just going web fragment -- class. And we are pretty much, we should be able to almost run it. We just have to change the final thing we have to do is just change our Android manifest. So there's a few things we have to change in Android manifest. The first thing is we just have to change our permissions. We just have to add a permission. So just to allow it to use the internet. Okay, and then just to use clear text traffic. So go Android, use clear text traffic, and then we're just going to go true. And then we have the style theme. So you have a general layout theme, which you can see here, and you can see it's no action bar, or it inherits from no action bar. But we're actually just going to change it so that there is, I want to just have no action bar. Okay. And now we should be able to run that. You can press Control, or if you're on a Mac, or you can press this button up here, and that will compile the app. And there you go. You have everything up and running, and you can see you can navigate back, everything like that. So that is how you get started with Turbo Android. There is a little bit of configuration. If you follow the blog posts, you should be able to, you should be fine, or you could just go back and forth on this video. If you have any questions, just leave a comment down below and I'll be happy to help you. Thank you very much for